I want to thank each of you for being here this morning. And I do know that we have visitors. And I want you to know that you are indeed our honored guest. And I want to offer to you initially a disclaimer. Number one, I am not a preacher. And number two, I'm not the regular person who occupies this pulpit. You are the victim of my fourth sermon. And I do remember very well when I was a young lad, and I was raised right down here where the old Dairy Queen was. I remember coming up here to church, and I wanted to be a preacher. And the reason I wanted to be a preacher was because, number one, they only had to work 3 times a week. And I thought, man, that'd be great. And I used to get down there and we'd play church. And I was always the preacher. And of course, my older sister, Sharon, she always knew what was exactly right and proper. And I remember this particular day, we were down there and she had gotten some crackers and something else, I don't remember what it was, for the fruit of the vine. And we were having communion. And some of you remember Shirley Smith, Shirley Overton, Elizabeth Harwell, Sharon, and I don't remember if there were any other girls there or not, but that's important for this story. We were playing church, and we started the communion. And of course, Sharon said, now you've got to take that, and you just take a little piece, and you put it, and you just chew it up with your front teeth. Well, it came around to me, and I just grabbed the whole cracker. Mama, Jimmy is, well, here come Mama. Here came Mama. Now, you're going to have to do this right, Jim. Okay, yes, ma'am. Well, we got down to the fruit of the vine. We were one-cuppers, And came around there to me, and I drank it all. Mama! All right, Jimmy, I'm not coming out here and telling you again. Well, we got down to the preaching. And I got up there and I did the preaching. And I got ready and I knew you're supposed to have an invitation. And I started to extend an invitation. And my invitation went like this. Now I want all the pretty girls to come up here and I want them to kiss the preacher. Well, Mother stepped out and she said, all right, that's enough of this church. There'll be no more church played here. And I haven't preached. And I wasn't a preacher. And I'm still not a preacher. And I'm scared to death. And if the elders don't say, all right, Jim, that's enough, you've got me for the next 3, or today and 2 more Sundays and 2 Wednesday nights. Tonight, if they don't say this is enough, I'm going to speak to you about God and country. And next Sunday night, I want to speak to you about be still and know God. Becky and Flo and Connie last fall went to Alaska, and they picked up a CD tape there. A CD is a CD, not a tape. They picked up a CD, and it was on eagles. And they thought that this was some, historical or something like that. And it ends up being a gospel message. And some of you have heard what I call previews of this lesson. This lesson will actually take 3 Sundays to present because I don't think you want to sit here and listen to me for an hour and a half present this lesson. But that's how long it takes to break this truth. And I hope that you'll pray today, and I hope you'll pray this week, that I can present God's Word as revealed through this tape of Fly Like an Eagle. And I hope that you'll take it to your heart and listen and apply it to your own life, apply it to your own marriage, apply it to your own home, and apply it to this church and our church life. If you will, get your Bibles and turn to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy chapter 32. He is the rock, starting with verse 4. And if you'll notice, that rock is capitalized. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are just. A God of truth without injustice. Righteous and upright is he. They have corrupted themselves. They are not his children. Because of their blemish, a perverse and crooked generation. Do you thus deal with the Lord, O foolish and unwise people? Is he not your Father who bought you? Is he not made you and established you? And I want you to notice that's a purchasing word. He owns you. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you. Your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High divided the inheritance into the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of his people, according to the numbers of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the place of his inheritance, and he kept him as the apple of his eye. Now I want you to pay particular attention to verse 11 in each phrase. As an eagle stirs up its nest, hovers over its young, spreading out its wing, taking them up, and carrying them on its wings. So the Lord alone led him, and there was no foreign god with him. According to my count, the eagle is mentioned 34 times in the Scriptures. And it's used in many ways to teach us about the Christian life and our families when we don't have the adequate explanations, in other words, in other ways. But before I get into the real thing on all of this, I need for you to understand what an eagle is. And I need to give you a description of an eagle. And I hate to take this away, but it's important for the next 3 weeks that you understand an eagle. And on your brochure here, you have a picture of an eagle. And that eagle is getting ready to land. I really tried to get a picture of an eagle in flight or an eagle getting ready to launch off, but I could not. Now, I had several people working very hard to try to find that, but we couldn't do it. This eagle is getting ready to land. An eagle is a large bird. It has a wingspan of 7.5 to 8 feet. And if you have any trouble visualizing how high that is, that's only that much less than a basketball goal is tall. He has a wide wingspan. An eagle weighs up to 20 pounds. He has claws that are needle sharp. And if some of you boys have ever gone out here and gone frog gigging and you think you've got to sharpen your gig, let me tell you something. The eagle has sharp claws. They're sharper than your gig. And they're powerful. It has been reported that at times in Australia that an eagle has actually attacked a full-grown kangaroo, broken its back because his claws are so strong, powerful, and so sharp. And I'm telling you, that's powerful. An eagle has an eyesight of 270 degrees. You know, that's back around like this. I can't even bend my head to get 270 degrees. He can see way around. An eagle can see up to 4.5 miles. He can see a rabbit move for 2 miles. And when somebody tells you that boy's got an eagle eye, let me tell you something. That lad can see. He can see a long ways. An eagle has 2 sets of eyelids. He has a normal set like you and I. Then he's got another set that comes in from the side. And this set of eyelids is used when he attacks down into the water or something, or when he's flying in the rain or flying toward the sun. These second set of eyelids come around and they protect his eyes. from things that would danger his normal seeing. And he can see through this second set of eyelids. An eagle can kill and carry up to 3 times his own weight. Now, I told you an eagle can grow up to 20 pounds. That means he can kill or carry up to 60 pounds, and that's a lot. That's about how much I'm carrying overweight right now. An eagle likes to live as high as he can. His nest is built high, it's not built low. And some of the attributes that you will find about an eagle are one, his alertness, his accuracies, his swiftness, his freedom, and his strength. And I remember very well the very first time I ever saw an eagle. And I was in Florida back in the early 70s with Lucy and Vance McMahon and Connie, and we were down there fishing. And I was out there fishing, and I saw this eagle, this big bird, come down. I'd seen pictures of eagles, but I really didn't recognize it. This big bird came down, it swooped down on the lake, and it picked up this large snake. And I'm telling you, that was a big snake. It wasn't one of these things we see crawling around here. I bet you that snake probably had to go 9 or 10 feet long. But that eagle just swooped right down there, picked it up, flew off, carried it up there into the top of a tree, stayed there for a little while, and that's when Vance told me, he said, "You see that eagle?" I said, "Was that what that was?" "Yeah." And then he flew off somewhere else. And I guess he was going off to feed some young. I don't know. But I was impressed from that day on with an eagle. The eagle to the air is the same thing as the lion is to the animal world. The eagle is king of the air. David studied the eagles, as has been shown in the Psalms several times, when he was a shepherd boy. A lot of his analogies are drawn out with eagles. And David talked about how eagles would take and kill a lamb, a small baby sheep. They would attack and kill it and take it and eat it. We're going to talk about what they did with that after a while. So David was well aware of eagles. He had to protect his flock from eagles. He knew about eagles. The eagle has captured the imagination of rulers for a long time because they are such a unique animal. They're on money, they're on different symbols, and they're used to describe the spiritual realm when nothing else in the physical realm could do that. An eagle can fly up to 100 to 130 miles an hour straight out. And then when he comes down on the attack, he can fly as fast as 200 miles an hour. He can fly as high as 10,000 feet. And folks, that's high. He lives from 60 to 100 years if he doesn't get too much DDT in him. And one thing I do want you to pay particular attention to, because in the third lesson we're going to talk about this a lot. The eagle flies 10% of the time. He glides 90%. We're going to speak about the eagle on 2 levels. One, we're going to talk about it on our home level. We're going to talk about our house. We're going to talk about our life. We're going to talk about our children. We're going to talk about our marriage. And then we're going to talk about it on the spiritual level. We're going to talk about our brothers and sisters in the church. We're going to talk about our spiritual walk with God and how we deal with each other here in the church. First of all, I'm going to stomp on some toes. Joe told me to be careful, and I'm going to try to be. But the first thing I want you to understand, when an eagle mates for life. An eagle mates for life. They don't get together and say, hey, let's get together, let's check it out, let's live a little while, let's move in with each other, let's see what's going on. An eagle mates for life. When they stood before a preacher, or when we stand before a preacher and we say, till death do us part, that's exactly what we're promising that person. We're promising God, just like the eagle. We should mate for life, and we should keep our promise that that's our purpose. God only gave us one out. And I believe everybody in this congregation knows what that one out is, and I'm not going to even go there with it. And I challenge each of you in this church, make your marriage an eagle marriage. When you mate for life. One other thing about the eagle parents. The eagle parents raise their children together. They don't mate and have a baby eagle and the father go off and say, well, I'm going to go off and I'm going to play golf, or I'm going to work 40 hours today. I'm going to work and not be home. Mama, you raise the children. The scriptures say, you fathers bring up your children in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. It takes two parents. It takes two to raise a child or children. And we have, from time to time, we have reasons why children don't have two parents. But let me tell you this. If you're a single parent out there trying to raise a child, you need to get on your knees and you need to get on your face. And you need to pray that God would make the difference in your life so that you can raise those children in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. You know, most of the time today, most fathers have got the attitude, and the world has taken the attitude, well, it's the responsibility of the mother to raise the children. That wasn't what the scriptures tell us. It's you fathers. You fathers raise up the children. It takes two. When an eagle parent dies, let me tell you something, this is amazing. And I don't know how they know it, but it's been recorded too many times that this is the fact. When an eagle parent dies, let's say the mama dies. Well, old Henry here, when mama dies, Henry goes out and he looks for another mate. Henry doesn't go over there and say, well, I'm going to see if I can steal old Betsy over there from Fred. When an eagle dies, the free mate seeks another free mate or a mate who has never mated before. One of the problems we see in this world today, in this country, is the fact that there's too many wandering eyes. There's too many people out there looking in this church to see how many soft hearts they can find, somewhere where they can go and sow a seed, where they can split up a family. An eagle will not split up another family. And we shouldn't either. You know, it's getting pretty bad. When the divorce rate inside the church is as bad as it is outside the church. We should have marriages as good as an eagle marriage. We should have men and women, adult men and women, who are as good as adult eagles. Now, for you young people, what I'm getting ready to tell you is something that's profound right now. And in the preview that I gave on this about 3 or 4 months ago, this is one of the things that most people have remembered and been waiting to hear how it's going to come in here. But I want you young people to remember this. when an eagle is looking for a mate, they do not marry a buzzard. You know, we have no business in the world as Christians of being around out here flying with the buzzards. Because if you fly with a buzzard, you're going to act like a buzzard. You're going to eat buzzard food. You're going to puke half the time. And your life is going to be destroyed. You have no business as a young person or an old person marrying a buzzard. You need to marry someone as spiritually high as you are. And if you're a widowed, or for some reason you're single, or for some reason you've been divorced and remarried, you need to make sure today that you live up to the commitment till death do us part, and I'm not fooling around with buzzards. I've seen too many people, too many times, who've been able to stand up and say, well, I thought when we got married I could change him or her. When you marry somebody, they're the best they're going to be. And if you're lucky, the two of you will grow equally in spirit together. And if you don't marry someone, if you don't marry and live with someone who's as spiritually high as you are, one of you is going to get drugged down. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to drag them up. You all know that most of you here that know me know that I coach football. And my deal is kickers and punters. And yeah, Miss Carrington, I'm going to hurry up and try to get through here. Last year, she threatened me if I went overtime. Last year, I was coaching one of the kickers down here at Kingston. And I didn't know much about him. I can't even really pronounce his name. I mean, he had one of those funny names. And I was trying to get to know him, and I said, well, you got a girlfriend? Yeah. No. He said, yeah. No. We just broke up. And I said, well, why'd you break up? He said, well, because she said she wanted more God time. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, she's a real religious girl. I said, well, do you go to church? No, I don't believe in God. And she didn't want to fool with me. She wanted more God time. You know who that girl was? That girl came out of this congregation. That girl is the daughter of Brent and Marta Piper, Whitney. Let me tell you something. Somebody who has been her teacher and your children's teacher, someone who has been the example, has done the right thing to teach, I need more God time. And I don't need to fly around with buzzards. I don't need to associate with buzzards. I need to associate with children who are members of the church, people who love God, people who want to serve God. This church can be proud of that young lady. And Brent and Marta, when I found out who it was, I can't tell you how proud I was. And thank you. So to summarize that, don't fly with the buzzards. Don't play with them. And if you don't play with them, you don't fly with them, you're not going to marry one. Now, an eagle will build its nest high. It'll build it on the highest rock it can find. It'll build it a place where it's safe. And let me tell you something. Your life, this church needs to be built on the rock of Jesus Christ, our Lord. It's the rock that stands the test of all ages. It's sound. It's above the strife. It's not down here with the snakes and the lizards and the turtles and the trash of the world. An eagle builds high. And let me tell you something how that eagle's nest is built. It's built out of sticks. It's built out of large sticks, not little old bitty twigs that the girls used to fuss about having to pick up from willow trees. I'm talking about big sticks. Remember, they can carry up to 60 pounds. And they build a strong nest. The largest nest that's ever been known to have been found is 9.5 feet. That's a large nest. And they're built strong. Now, this kind of comes out of the course of the area, and it goes back to the girls. When a young eagle, female, is looking for a husband, and by the way, it's the female eagle that does the looking. And now, girls, you got to remember this, and this is true, and I know it's true, and remember, I know there's some of you out there looking for a husband. But you just remember this. A female eagle, she'll pick up a stick and she'll fly over out through there, and she sees old pretty boy down here, and she's interested in him, and she'll drop that stick. And if old pretty boy's interested in her, he'll pick up that stick and he'll fly back over and he'll drop it next to her. And then they go through a courtship together. The important thing I want you to understand about that is this. She drops a stick and she's saying, pretty boy, are you interested in marriage? Are you interested in making a home? Do you have a place to live? Are you interested in children? She's not saying, you want to come and live with me a while and let's try it out? No, sirree. You want to come live with me in marriage for the rest of our lives. That stick is a sign of a permanent home that she's dropping. If he isn't interested, he just doesn't pick it up. And she goes on her way, and he does too. She doesn't try to talk him into it or think she's going to convert him. That's it, period. Now, one thing I want you to know about an eagle's nest. I told you earlier about how eagles would go down and they'd attack little lambs, and they'd kill lambs, and they'll kill foxes or rabbits or squirrels or what have you. And they'll kill that animal, and they'll pick it up, and they'll carry it back to their nest, and they'll eat it. And after they eat it, they take the fur from that animal, and they line their nest. And you know what that tells me? That nest is made for comfort. Just as the church should be a place of comfort. You know, there should be no place in the world that we look for comfort more than the church in our homes. And if we can't come into this church without feeling animosity, if we can't come in here without feeling like somebody's looking at me, somebody's going to put me down, if this is not a place of comfort, then we need to get it right. And if we've got it right, which I believe we do, we need to keep it right. This place needs to be a place of comfort. And your home needs to be a place of comfort. It needs to be a place that you want to go home to. It needs to be a place where you can go in the evening or wake up in the morning and not feel like, well, somebody's yak, 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 yak all day long. God didn't do that to us. He didn't give us a world. He didn't give us a church. He didn't give us a plan where we weren't comfortable. It should be a place where there's no strife, no envy. Now I'm going to step on some women's toes here. And I don't mean to, but I'm going to do it. I want you to know that an eagle's nest is a clean nest. They keep it clean. And a lot of people wonder, well, why doesn't my husband want to come home? Well, a lot of times that husband doesn't want to come home because he doesn't want to come home to the mess and the filthiness that a lot of us live in. And I know you can sit there and you can say, well, if he wouldn't mess it up, I could keep it clean. Well, that's true. But all I'm telling you is this. The eagle keeps her nest clean. And if we put our lives in God's hands, He will clean us up. Because God will create in us a clean heart. These three things I want you to remember. The eagle's nest, first, is to protect. it's a perch, and it's a pad. It's to protect because it's built high. It's built away from the foxes and all the other animals that could get up there and kill a baby eagle or something like that. It's built high. It's built solid. It's on the rock or it's on a strong tree. It's built high. It's not down here with the snakes and the lizards. It's built high. And our home should be high, and it should be a holy place. We shouldn't have the filth and the corruption of the world in our homes. The garbage that we see from day to day should not be in our homes. And it's up to us as mothers and fathers, grandparents and grandmothers, to make sure that our children and our grandchildren build their homes high, and we put them on the rock of Jesus Christ. It's a perch. And it's up there where it can see. Remember I told you an eagle could see 4.5 miles? Well, that's the same way that the home is. It's built high so that you can look out and you can see the dangers coming at your life, coming at your marriage. You can see the things that would come in and destroy your spiritual life. You could understand what's happening. It gives you the perspective to see through God's eye, to be able to understand what's wrong. And folks, that's what wisdom is. When you're up there in your perch and you have the perspective to see what's coming at your life or coming at this church, that's wisdom. And you're able to see the turmoil, the storms and the things that you think are not right coming at you and destroying your life or ruffling your nest. You're able to understand God's will when you see that. It's also a pad. And this is one place that we fail miserably. The pad is a place from which you could launch off. And the higher the nest, the higher the pad, the greater the flight. You can't build your nest too high. You can't set too high a standard. Now, you can be too mean, you can be too uncompassionate, you can be too unmerciful, but you cannot build too high a standard. Because the higher the standard, the higher the nest, the higher the church, the greater the flight. We need to understand that the church, in our homes, we should eliminate the envy and the jealousy, the strife, the grief, and the garbage that the world would have us to do. Now time's gone, Miss Carrington, I'm about finished. We built a nest, we've got a couple. And now there's something else that happens, and we're going to start talking about this next week. It's faithfulness, gentle, and constant. Old Daddy Eagle comes in one day, and he's flying in there carrying an evergreen. And he's telling Mama Eagle, saying, the nest is ready for some eggs. And we're going to talk about that next week. I'm not as smart as David. And I certainly can't sit up here and give you book, chapter, and verse, nor can I remember everything that I should have remembered without detailed notes. And I have not talked about the plan of salvation. I have not talked about the idea of hearing the Word, because I doubt if there's a single soul in this congregation that hadn't heard the Word at one time or another. And I bet there's not a single soul in this congregation that doesn't believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. But I do know there's those of us who have not been baptized as we've been instructed to do. And I also know that there's people here who are troubled. There are people here who've got things in their lives that they need prayers for. There's people that understand that everything cannot be done by us and by us alone. But as a group, as a collection of God's people, we can lift our prayer to God, and He can make things right for us. If it's your desire this day to be baptized, or if you need the prayers of this body of people, I would ask you to come as together we stand and sing.